How's it going out there, Flat Picker? My name's Hayes Griffin, and welcome back for another Mandolin Secrets Guitar Club video. In this video, we're going to be showing you the chord changes to the tune Beaumont Rag, as well as some neat walking runs that you can use to spice up your basic bluegrass rhythm playing. Before we go ahead and dive into the lesson though, if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button below and clicking the bell notification button, that's a great way to keep up with all the new content that we're releasing every week here on Mandolin Secrets. Also, if you're interested in a more enhanced learning experience with PDFs of tab and sheet music for all of these tunes, as well as backing tracks, play-along tracks, and other educational tools, check out the link below to the Mandolin Secrets Guitar Club. There you'll find all of the stuff I talked about and more, plus access to our community where you can ask questions to me, Magnus Zetterlund, as well as the rest of the Mandolin Secrets Guitar Club community. All right, my friend, let's go ahead and dive into learning the chord changes to this one. If you noticed at the beginning of the video, I've got my capo on the 2nd fret here, so you'll want to grab your capo and put that on the 2nd fret. This tune is played in the key of D, but in guitar speak, we're working out of C position. You'll hear that a lot when you're talking about bluegrass tunes, because guitar players tend to capo their guitar so we can keep those really nice full-sounding open chords, as opposed to having to play bar chords and things like that up the neck. So capo position is definitely something you're going to have to get familiar with. If that's something you're already familiar with though, no big deal. You know exactly what we're talking about. Also, just to give you an overview of the chords that we're using in this tune today, the tune is technically in the key of D. Like I said, we're in C position here, so the C chord is going to be our root chord, our 1 chord. But the tune actually starts on a G7 chord, the 5 chord in this key. So if you're not familiar with that chord shape, let's go ahead and learn that one. We've got a ring finger on the 3rd fret of the low E, middle finger on the 2nd fret of the A, and then index finger on the 1st fret of the high E. And I am speaking in capo terminology, so obviously it's the 5th fret, 4th fret, and 3rd fret respectively, but we're going to speak like the capo zeroes out all of our frets. So that's that G7 chord for you one more time. And a neat thing too, I always love to talk about chord ergonomics. This is something that all my private students will know about. It's really nice to switch between a G7 chord and a C chord, which is how the chord progression in this tune goes. All you have to do, it's pretty much the same configuration of left-hand fingers, the same shape. You just take these 2 fingers in the shape that they're in and move them down a string, and then take this index finger and move it up a string. So you can almost, it's like the C chord explodes into a G7 and the G7 implodes into a C chord. Pretty nice, huh? So that C chord is one that we have to learn today. If you don't know that one already, ring finger on the 3rd, middle finger on the 2nd, and then index finger on the 1st fret of the B string. So that's 3rd fret of the A, 2nd fret of the D, and 1st fret of the B string. And if you notice too, when I was playing the beginning of the video here, I'm actually, for the alternating bass on that C chord, it's a little different than a lot of the other open chords out there. You can choose to play it this way: bass, strum, then move your ring finger down to the G note, the 5th of the C chord. So bass, strum, bass, strum, bass, strum, bass, strum. I think it's really nice to learn how to play it that way, but if you don't like all that finger motion, you can actually play this C chord shape, where you've got your ring finger on the 3rd fret of the low E, pinky on the 3rd fret of the A, middle on the 2nd fret of the D, open G, 1st fret of the B, and then open E. So that way you can go bass, so your A string, bass, strum, E string, strum. No moving involved. A lot of people like this one too, because when we transition to our F chord, the last chord that we need to know for this tune, it's actually the same kind of ergonomics approach we were talking about before. You can take these 3 fingers here and just move them all down a string, and then bar that 1st finger, and you've got an F chord. And that one, the bass drum works the same, only now we're down a string. So it's bass on your D string, strum, bass on your A string, strum. And those notes are F, strum, C, strum, respectively, if we're speaking in capo terminology. So that's what it looks like on an F. You can also do an alternating ring finger on your F chord if this is the F shape you're familiar with. It's just like that C chord in that you're going to go strum, or excuse me, bass, strum, bass, strum. But I like to use this one for my F chord, and then I alternate on my C chord. So there are a lot of options here for your left-handed A. Do whatever's comfortable for you. But if this is your first time experiencing any of these chords or playing rhythm like this, I would say just do exactly what I'm doing today, and then you can worry about modifying it later. All right, my friend, that's enough for the overview of the chords. Let's go ahead and dive into the 100 beat per minute version of playing rhythm on this tune. I'm just going to do a basic bluegrass strum where it's bass, strum, bass, strum, bass, strum the whole time. Those of you that are more experienced will know that on those offbeat strums you can actually do 2 if you like. But for today's video, I'm just going to keep it simple in case we've got some beginners out there, all right? So let's go ahead and dive into that 100 beat per minute version of the tune, and then we'll see you on the other side for a neat little variation. A 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, my friend, that's it for the basic 100 beat per minute version of the bluegrass bass strum to the chords on Beaumont Rag. Now, I promised you a little variation and kind of a secret tool that I use all of the time to steer my bandmates' ears and the listeners' ears to the next chord change. This is something really common in bluegrass and old-time guitar playing. It's called walking bass runs. And we can employ walking bass runs in a really easy way on all of the chords to Beaumont Rag here today. So the normal chord changes for the first 4 bars of Beaumont Rag would go like this, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, But if you want to add a little spice to your playing, you can substitute beats 3 and 4 in the second measure of G7 with 2 walking bass notes, I call them. So just to kind of unpack that, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And you can actually do the same thing to get back into the G7. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So the cool thing about the bass runs that we're going to be using for all the chords today, we're just going to be playing an open string and the second fret of whatever string our bass note happens to be on. So for that G7 chord, when we're walking into the G7, it's 3, 4, and if we're going with fret numbers here, it would be 0, 2, 3. And then when you walk into a C chord, it's the same thing, 0, 2, 3. And then to walk into an F chord, it's the same thing. So that's kind of like a neat little intro to walking bass lines, and I think it's something that you'll pick up on really quick and be able to utilize in the chord changes to Beaumont Rag. I'm not going to give you a slow example of this one. We're just going to go ahead and dive straight into the 160 beat per minute version. I'm going to give you a plain and simple version of the tune first at 160 beats per minute, just to make sure that we've got everything in order, and then we'll do once through the tune with those walking bass lines in there. Let's go ahead and dive in. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, that's it for the basic version. Now, as promised, here's that version with the walking bass notes. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, my friend, that's it for the chord changes to Beaumont Rag. I hope that walking bass line technique is something that you find useful and that you can experiment with in your own playing. I would try to find those walking bass notes for all of your other open position chords too. It's not that hard to find once you kind of figure out the pattern for this tune. Before we get out of here, if you enjoyed this video, leave us a comment below and let us know what you liked, or if there's something else that you would like to see here on the Mandolin Secrets YouTube channel. We've got tons of guitar and mandolin content headed your way in the future, but we always love to hear from you to know exactly what you want. All right, my friend, that's it for this lesson. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.